Joe, we know that variety in creative is really important. Is it true that advertisers need to run more creative variants than ever now? I've heard that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones. I'd say creative variance has always been important, but now with the way that machine learning is with Google and with Meta, AI is more powerful than ever. So less of the emphasis is on trying to get the exact right audience. It's more signal based, more the feel, as they say, and it's less about getting the exact right budget. So what really comes down to is what's the last lever we have left to pull is improving creative. And I always give the example of it's kind of like a toolbox is creative, right? So you have each different content type is a different tool, and each tool does a different job. So there might be some people who respond really well to social proof. So you need the testimonial content in your toolbox because that's what's going to convert them. I mean beyond that, what happens is that more people are having more creative because it's cheaper to make with AI. You've got the UGC, this absolutely blowing up at the moment with things like 12 and 5 and stuff like that. And then you also have influencer content, which is just being made easier and easier to do with Google through the platform, which just means that every brand's got more creative. And that just means everyone has to up their game because as more people are using more creative, everyone matches that. Sort of like they're raising the bar in that sense.
Yeah, that's really interesting what you say. I mean, I think we've seen that. It's a kind of making as much content as you can and in as many formats as you can, and then the AI decides what works. Doesn't that make it really difficult to kind of know what to do from the outset? Surely you've got to kind of focus on something. Beyond the aims of the campaign.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a great question because you're thinking if me and you started a hat business tomorrow,
that would be an amazing thing to
that's
do.
the one we do. And we're thinking, okay, well, what's the first video we make? That's obviously a really hard question to answer.
Yeah.
You can do a bit of customer research, understand what sort of people buy hats, why they might buy hats. Maybe they're into sports, maybe it's baseball caps, that sort of thing. What sort of content to support people watch? You can start that way. Probably a broader net approach as well. Obviously, like I say, creative variety in a mix. You try a bunch of different content types. You try testimonials. You try how-tos with a hat. Don't know how that would work. More brand videos, more narrative videos, and you just see what works. And I guess it's kind of led by the data in that sense, rather than by what you feel would work, which is kind of where a lot of people, traditional marketing's always been I think people will probably like it because of that.
But I mean, the thing with digital is you know quickly, and you always have know quickly what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, for sure.
And when we were starting out in Google Ads, it's try this headline, try this description. You could see the click-through rates, you could see the conversion rate, back in the old days, and it was fun. That's what engaged people about trying different things. So I mean, is this still very much the case? When you set a campaign live, are you then very quickly just getting information back that you can then use to refine, or is it you've got everything right at the start and then you're just letting it run? Do you see what I mean?
I see what you mean.
How much ongoing optimization are we talking about?
I think once again, not to be the classic answer of it depends, because it always depends.
Everything depends.
Some brands we work with, they have loads of creative. So from the get-go, we're launching activity. We might have multiple different types of the same creative format. We might have loads of videos. So the emphasis there is being okay, well, how do we build a creative testing framework, understand what works and what isn't working, pause the performance, brief in more content that matches what works. Other people we work with, it's we've got this one video. You go, okay, well, that's what we've got to work with. We obviously can suggest other types that works well from that. We can suggest ways to cut up that content. We can maybe fill gaps with, as I mentioned earlier, sort of influencer content through Brand Connect, or through UGC, or through AI Creative. So yeah, it is hard. It's very it has to be a diagnosed, tailored approach. And I think that's kind of where it is tricky at the moment, is there's not a one size fits all answer.
Yeah. Joe, what is Meta's Andromeda update? Sounds like something to do with the stars, but I'm guessing it's not. Has it driven growth for advertisers?
Yeah, I mean, classic marketing fashion of having a fancy name, of course.
Of course.
So I mean, essentially, it was a big back end shift to how Meta chooses people that the ads appear to. In layman's terms, where it used to before it'd be these are the people we want to target, and then you're just bidding for that ad space. Now it's these are the sort of people we want to target, and then they go, okay, that's some information for us to sort of, base that off. But what we're really going to do is review your creative and see what sort of people would watch that creative.
Yeah, AI creative has obviously unlocked huge growth, but where, do we know where this growth is coming from? What I mean is, has it enabled smaller advertisers to get in on the game, or is it that bigger advertisers, established people are just unleashing a lot more creatives out there?
Yeah, I think I would sort of split this out into short term, long term. And so for the short term, it's the people that are less risk averse, more willing to, they're not necessarily beholden to stakeholders. So talking smaller brands, startups, stuff like that. They're not necessarily worried about putting out a video and everyone saying, "Oh, this is AI slop. We don't want to be associated with this brand." They're like just trying to do something disruptive, and I think AI is plugging that gap for them. And obviously also smaller brands in general probably have lower budgets, right? They've not got the massive production budgets of, say, like a multi-million-pound company.
Yeah.
In the long term, it's really going to be the big brands that benefit the most. Once that we've crossed that line of where it's just advertising normal, everyone's using it, it's super developed. I think the big brands where they have the big budgets, it's only going to enhance all the creatives they can do. Very iterative. So I'd say that's how it splits out short term and long term.
AI creative tools have got better very fast. It's about rate of improvement. Google talk about decades development in a year, and I think anyone that uses these tools can kind of experience that for themselves. So what changes and the capability of the tools have been really important for you and your team?
So I would say the most important thing, when working with brands, working with clients, is they need consistency. So, we're putting a product in the shop, that product needs to look like the actual product. It can't change halfway through the shot. It can't change color. The writing has to read right.
Sure.
And that's what AI has always struggled with. Like I say, has always, once again, we're talking about in this 1 year of development. But that's where we have struggled. With VO 3.1 that was released late 2025, we did see a lot more consistency. So things weren't likely to suddenly change direction they were moving. Things would stay the way they looked throughout the scene. So that consistency has improved, and it definitely moved that step of like, okay, we could actually start making good content now.
So that was a major obstacle.
Yeah, I would say, and still is. And there's elements of it, like, I think this maybe actually goes into another question really, but in the future, like what the next stepping stones really is getting that consistent writing. So, I've worked with some AI on one of our clients, and it's like, okay, we've got this package, we put it in the shop, it seems to read right, and then the second they're moving around, like the writing doesn't seem to match anymore, or using Nan and Banana just struggles with it. So I think that's going to be a key one. And then there's just small stuff when I don't know how to group it, maybe physics. So I'll give you an example. Was one I had a bow on the front of a house, and I wanted the bow to become undone and fall to the floor, and like it just could not get how a bow would be undone.
You mean like there was a big ribbon?
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And so instead of like unraveling, it just went flop to the floor. Yeah. And then just unraveled on the floor.
But at least it kept the same colour. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So it had the consistency, but not quite the physics. It's a similar thing if you see like when like we were doing stuff with dogs, it's like trying to get the dogs to move. Sometimes they like move completely normal. Other times they walk a bit more like a human. The way they eat, don't even get me started on how animals eat, because I've had a lot of struggle with that. Because you have to like try and cut away at the right time, because otherwise it looks crazy. So I think these things are all to come. I think all this stuff will be out of date in probably like 5 months if we're talking about it again. So I'm not necessarily too worried, but I think that's the direction that they need to move to make it more user friendly.
So this enhanced capacity for creatives can benefit personalization. Joe, why do you think personalization is important?
So I mean, the main thing, traditionally what we have is clients that maybe they spend a lot of money and they produce one video, right? And it's a sort of catch-all. Hopefully all of our customers resonate with this ad and it works well. With obviously now we have all these creative avenues with UGC, with influencers, with AI creative. What that means for us is that we can have such tailored ads to these specific people, and we can afford to have 5 different, personas that we're targeting with their own creative, which obviously traditionally would have cost 5 times as much if you're making 5 times as many video. But now that the cost of creators come down, the ability to scale up how many creators we're doing, it goes the other way, right? The seesaw effect. So,
and I guess you can experiment more with personas.
Yeah, exactly.
You may not have been able to sort of put the resources into backing up with full creative.
Well, yeah, you're trying to sell to business. Like, we think this creative might this persona might work really well. Can you please dump a load of money into creative for it?
Yeah, sure.
You know, that's a difficult pill for them to swallow. It's a big risk for us. We might be like pitching them an idea that's not going to work. Whereas now it's like, okay, we're just going to change the hook with a different scene, or we're going to change the hook with a different thing the voiceover says. And suddenly we have all these iterations that we can test and see what works for each persona. And yeah, it just brings us closer to like, actually, what does the customer want to watch? What is going to drive them to make the conversion?
Yeah, and I think also I think this is a main theme about automation and AI generally, is like saving the time. If it unlocks the time and the resources for more experimentation, then you're ultimately that's a good thing. We should be focusing our resources into that kind of experimentation rather than necessarily doing the production work.
No, I mean, I completely agree. I think it's kind of, it's one of those ones where it's almost just like it's just an absolute truth that if you test and iterate, the end result is going to be better than where you started. So when we're looking at, traditionally where you might have had one set of ads you ran for a third of the year and made no changes, in this new world of, okay, multiple different creatives, trying lots of different formats, iterative testing, you like, it's just common sense that the output is going to be stronger at the end of it. And obviously, as you continue to learn, that's going to continue to improve performance. I guess the only thing with it is that I do think is I wonder how much if everyone's improving, everyone's getting more creative, does the bar for creative just keep rising? I don't know if that's going a bit too meta with it, but
maybe people just feel better about advertising generally.
Yeah.
So people have more headspace and people for thinking about ads or responding to ads.
Yeah, maybe. I think there's an element that there's more content produced. In this year, in 2026, we'll see more content that's ever been produced in a year.
Yeah. With
AI, especially adding to the fuel to the fire of that. So I think the element with AI as well is also like, okay, well, what can we do? Not just with AI, just with creative. Like, what can we do to stand out from that noise? Because you'll find so many different things and so many for attention for this one person. And so I guess that's where original ideas are important. Trying to take a bit more of a risk on creative is important, because if you just do the same bog standard thing that everyone else is doing, you will get drowned out really quickly. And it's not just good enough to be like, okay, well, we'll do a brand video and a testimonial video and that's some creative mix. It's like, okay, well, when we do the brand video, how can we really stand out? What's going to separate us and make people remember this ad when they see it,
Talking generally about where it's at with the AI creative and the kind of the tools and how to make the most of it. But what about the kind of specific projects that you've been working on? We talk about some specific things that you've been doing that you've been really, you and your team have been really excited to be working on.
Yeah, so
you excited the clients.
Yeah, definitely exciting. So one of our key projects at the moment is working with UMove. They're a really fast growing brand, and our approach with them was very much before we even get into AI creative, it's like, let's take a step back. Let's diagnose, what creative do you have? What creative do you need?
Yeah. So tell me about, so who are they and what do they do?
Okay, yeah. So UMove, they're a dog supplement brand. So they're doing joints, they're doing digest, they're doing dental, and skin. It's kind of a mix of different dog supplements. So yeah, the idea here was that joints is their big market, but they're also growing digest really well. So we're looking to launch activity that they've never had with digest specifically. So then it's okay, well, what videos do we have for digest? How do we fill out these campaigns so they're as strong as possible? So we worked with Google. We got them access to some influencers through our partnership with Google. So that was really good as an agency. So we've got some influencer content coming on the way. We know they had some UGC, so I had a look through all their UGC. We recommended some changes and some ones to pull out. And then as a third and final, how do we round it out? We've then also started producing some AI videos for them. That's been going really well. It starts off, looking at the visuals. So we generate these images as sort of scenes. We put that into a storyboard. We share these ideas with the client, and then they tell us, we don't like this, we like this. We then, a bit of back and forth, and then that goes into producing scenes through Flow. And yeah, once we have all this raw footage essentially, and some voiceovers, we cut it all together, put it into post-production, and hopefully share it with the client, and then we have a nice rounded out campaign.
So it sounds really collaborative. It sounds like the clients are really getting involved. They're really engaged with the process. I guess you're giving them sort of videos and pictures to look at, rather than just data.
I think the main thing that's been impressing clients the most is more how little they need to input to get an output. So another client we've been working with is Reed Business School, and we've done a combination. So we're looking to build out their social activity, and they basically, all we've got given was some stock photos essentially. But the output that we've been managed to do, through Gemini producing images, and then also using Flow to create video. We've now got a strong video. We have I think it's 190 variations we have ready to go. Using Smartly, which, with the templates and swapping in and out different texts and images and stuff like that. So yeah, but it's kind of like, it's at the time you're going through, but when you take a step back and go, okay, this is what we were given, this is the output. We've tenfold, hundredfold what they came in with, and it follows best practices. We worked closely with Meta, we worked closely with Google to understand what is working well, what is the best practice at the moment, and that's what we're trying to implement into the creative when we're then putting it in the campaign.
When you're producing so much stuff, is it then a challenge to get the client to focus on what you want them to look at? So you're producing an awful lot of potential options and lots of different data. How do you focus the client on?
So I think
giving you useful feedback.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think for my view with it is that they're not necessarily they're not necessarily trying to look out for a deep dive into every single one, what we don't like about it. For example, on the images,
it's
more like they're just telling us, let's definitely not do these ones. If there's anything that's like, okay, this is definitely not brand
guidelines.
Yeah, exactly. And then the rest, the more tools in the belt, the better, right? So they're going, okay, well, we've now got all these different images. They all look great. The templates work great. We've got this video. We're happy with the video. Signed it off. It's got all their branding, everything else. It looks produced by them. So yeah, the idea is now we test it. We understand what works. And that's just going to inform us for our next round of creative and how we then, shift our strategy on it.
Oh, cool.
I've been Joe, the creative lead at Kinase agency. Follow them for more if you want to hear more about industry updates and exciting things going on in AI.